Hello and welcome back to Bacon. Also, welcome back to Cinderella Phenomenon. We're continuing with Waltz's route, the rest of Chapter 5. Waltz's description of Neverland and Tinkerbell was enough to jog my memory. A long time ago, Mother gave me a box and a key that matches Waltz's earlier description perfectly. She gave me strict instructions to hide them in my room and to never let anyone else have them. I never questioned Mother's orders and kept both the box and key tucked in one of my drawers. I'd forgotten I even had those things until Waltz mentioned them. The minute I remembered, I sent a letter to Rod requesting he help us get into the palace. I knew that our strained relationship would make it hard for him to trust me, so I emphasized the importance of the item we needed to obtain. A week later, he finally came through. Now we are just outside the palace waiting for him. Durian and Garland are here to protect us in case the need arises. I glance at Waltz, who is standing beside me fidgeting. He has been against me coming with him ever since he found out about my plans. He cannot stop me. I refuse to be left behind. Refuse! You still won't change your mind about this, princess? You know the situation with the witches. It's not safe for you to be here. It is not safe for me anywhere outside of the march, and you know that. Besides, how do you plan on finding Neverland and Tinkerbell without me? I am the only one who knows where they are. Like I said, if you would just tell me where they are, I can go on my own. There's no need for you to put yourself in this much danger. I am going, and you cannot stop me, Waltz. Princess. I turn to face him fully. This is my choice, Waltz. I want to do this. For a moment there is silence between us as Waltz studies my expression. He eventually sighs and shakes his head. I should know by now that there's no change in your mind when you're determined to do something. Just promise to stay close to me, okay? I nod absently as I feel around in my pocket for a small object, a vial that Parfait gave to me before Waltz and I left for the palace. She said that it should help us when the need arises. It is a shame that neither Parfait nor Delora could be here due to their urgent meeting with the fairies. Durian and Garland are finally arrived with Rod. You would think that this is important enough for at least Delora to come along, because this is kind of extremely important. Durian and Garland finally arrive with Rod. Ready? I can only nod and reply. Hopefully nothing will go wrong. We make our way through a secret passageway. I've heard of this secret passageway from the king before, but this is the first time I have ever been here. They say that this was built as an escape route should the need to evacuate the royal family arise. Only the commander of the Order of Caldera and the king know about this place. Rod, how do you even know this place? How did you get a key? I thought that only the king and Sir Alcaster had copies. It was Lady Parfait who showed me this place and gave me the key. I can't leave the palace unattended on normal circumstances, so she suggested I go through here whenever I needed to get to the margin. Then, how was she able to get a copy of the key? You should ask her that yourself. Anyway, you haven't even told me what you needed from your room. It is an item that will break Waltz's curse. I see. Why did you take so long to respond to my letter? The palace has been on high alert since last week. Why? Rod stops and looks at me. The hesitation is clear in his eyes. Did something happen? A week ago, the king received a letter. A warning. A letter? It said that 3 days from now, the king will be judged and convicted. His crown will be given to one more worthy. I stare at Rod with slow understanding. 3 days from now? But that date. Your 18th birthday. I continue to stare at Rod in disbelief. This cannot be a coincidence. But a new king? Do you think someone is specifically targeting my father? We all know that royals are always in danger. But this threat has made the king especially nervous. Are the witches involved in this? The silence that falls within the tunnels is heavy. They think there is a good chance they must be. That's why the Order of Caldera has tightened security. We continue walking in silence. Eventually, Rod points at something ahead of us. Here we are. The dim light of the tunnel illuminates a rusted door that leads into the palace. Rod looks around warily while Waltz and I quickly duck into the shadows of a column. The guards will be doing their rounds on this side soon. We need to hurry. Right. The hallways are thankfully quiet as we traverse them. Rod did a good job of scoping out the times of patrol. Eventually, we reach my room. I stop at the door to my room, suddenly overwhelmed by nostalgia. It has been so long since I have been in my room. Is this Emmeline's room now? No. By the king's order, your room has been untouched since you were cursed. Then, what has become of this room? I look at Rod in shock as he studies the door to my room with a complicated expression on his face. I think maids are sent in here to dust occasionally, but otherwise everything should be just as it was before. But why would the king keep the room as it is if he does not remember me? I turn back to the door thoughtfully, then glance at Rod. We can handle the rest. You should leave before you draw any unwanted attention. I do not want to get you in trouble. Don't worry, we will figure out a way to get back to that passage without alerting anyone. What? You've changed. What do you mean by that? You never would have cared about someone else's safety before. Rod turns to leave before I can respond. Be careful. Thank you. Garl and I will stand outside. Make it quick. I nod at Jurian before turning back to the door and turning the knob. I glance at Waltz and he nods at me. I take a deep breath and open the door. Rod told me that my room had been untouched since I left, but I was not expecting it to be like this. Nothing has changed. Not a thing out of place. There is not even a speck of dust on the dolls on my shelves. Lucette? I am confused as to why this room has been untouched. Certainly the king would have thought to do something else with it. Or in the very least, he would not have had maids coming in consistently to clean it. But I cannot let myself linger on the questions. I have no time for them. We came here to find Neverland and Tinkerbell. I look at Waltz and nod. Let us start searching. Time passes, but I am only able to find the key. The box is nowhere to be found, not even the drawer that I remembered putting it in. To think that you had Neverland and Tinkerbell this whole time. Have you tried searching for it in my room before? I have, but I didn't find anything. She must have used the glamour magic to hide it from me. I stare at the key with frustration. Well, that would actually explain it a little better than the last route why it wasn't found. He simply just didn't look in the palace, whereas that should have been the very first place he looked before, and he didn't, and that's why he didn't find it originally. This time it's because even though he looked, he couldn't find it because it was possibly glamorized. Glamorized. I don't understand. I am sure it was here. Are you sure you didn't throw it away? No, I would never throw away such a beautiful box. Besides, I keep most of my things. They're all valuable to me, even if they are not outwardly beautiful. I wouldn't have believed you if I hadn't seen this. He leans down to pluck a puppet from one of my drawers. He holds it up with a smile and I feel my cheeks heat in embarrassment. Aww. I never remembered to throw that out. Waltz gazes at me thoughtfully. That's the only reason? Well, I look at the puppet in his hands and find the truth spilling out of me. I was never able to put my finger on why, but I have always liked that puppet. A smile stretches across Waltz's face. You kept it even though I did such a bad job with the sewing. What? You made this? Yeah, this is the first puppet I ever made. Waltz turns the puppet in his hands, looking down on it fondly before his eyes meet mine. You were the one who taught me how to sew in the first place, you know. What? I was the one who taught him how to sew? I stare at the puppet. I probably kept it because you made it. How cruel. Huh? Do you have any idea what you're doing to my poor heart? You seem perfectly fine to me. Waltz shakes his head and sighs. Waltz? So What? The knob begins to turn. Waltz and I exchange glances before we both dart to different hiding places. I hide myself under the bed and he runs behind the curtain, which more easily conceals his smaller body. King Gennaro! The king? What is he doing here? When the king steps inside, I notice that there is something in his hands. Ooh, it's the boxy-doo. That's the box, but why does he have it? I look at Waltz and he gives me a small nod, affirming that it is indeed Neverland. Who's there? Show yourself now if you don't want to get hurt. The king unsheathes his sword. Uh-oh. What should we do? I look at Waltz, who signals to me to stay in place. He mouths something, and I think he might be saying that he means to find a way to get us out. Is Waltz going to sacrifice himself again? Will he be alright? Should I trust him? Okay. Stay or reveal myself? Oh gosh. I'm gonna go with the first one. I'm not sure, though. I nod at Waltz. He steps out of the curtain, raises his hands in surrender. Forgive me, Your Majesty. I know you. You were Hilda's apprentice. Waltz, was it? I remember then that Waltz had worked for Mother, so naturally the king would know who he was. It's been a while, Your Majesty. I'm honored you still remember me. You haven't changed. Not at all. So Hilda really did curse you for betraying her. Betraying her? Betraying her how? The king places his sword back in its scabbard. I have no idea what you were doing here now, but... The king surprises us both by getting down on one knee and bowing to Waltz. Your Majesty, you shouldn't... I was never able to thank you after the war, so thank you. You did so much for our kingdom, Waltz. So thank you. We owe you our lives. If only all witches were as good as you. The king stands once again, his posture stiff and straight. There are more of us than you think, your majesty. I am lost. What are they talking about? But I didn't do it for the kingdom. Waltz turns to look at me suddenly, a small smile on his face. I did it for her. And one, correct answer. And two, oh. Her? Who are you talking about? Waltz nods his head at me. It's alright, Lucette. I slide out of my hiding space and stand in front of the king. It has been months since I last saw him. The king's eyes widen as he looks at me. You're that girl from the gates. You remember me? It is more like I find it impossible to forget you. So why didn't you look into it? What? I have a lot of questions for the two of you, but the most important is why you are both in this room. Regardless of the fact that I know you, Waltz, you have still broken into the palace. We would not have done it if we did not have to. I steel myself for further scolding when the king turns to look at me. The box you are holding. We need it to break Waltz's curse. How did you come to have it, your majesty? The king looks down at the box as if only noticing it for the first time. I was in this room the other day and noticed a chip on the side of the box. I took it to get it fixed. A chip? I did drop it once a while back, but did not think to get it fixed myself. Why would you do that? The king looks around the room, a faraway look in his eyes. This room is special to me, though I do not know why. I feel like this room and I are both waiting for someone to return, and everything must be perfect for when they do. I feel my chest tighten even as the king huffs out a derisive laugh. What am I saying? You cannot miss me when he does not remember me. He can't. Right? And if he remembers at least this much, the feelings, why didn't he look into it, especially when a young girl approached him saying, I am your daughter, with his eyes? And then, oh, I can't. I can't. But if this box is all that you require, Waltz, you may have it. It is the least I can do after all you have done for us. The king holds up the box to Waltz, who reaches out to take it. Thank you, your majesty. Look who we have here! Uh-oh. We all freeze at the sound of the new voice. I turn and find an all-too-familiar figure leaning against the doorway, a mischievous grin on his face. Okay, it's either going to be Varg or Mithros. Ha-ha! I was half right. What a sweet little reunion. Varg? Okay. Right here. I haven't gone that far, so... Varg. I told you I'd come back for you, didn't I? Varg taps his cane on the floor, creating a shockwave of powerful energy that blasts us all across the room. The impact of the magic forces me against the wall. I collapse to my knees, pain thrumming in my head. The king collapses somewhere nearby, and I hear the crack of the box as it lands on the ground a few feet away from us. Waltz holds out his hand. I take it, and he helps me back to my feet. Lucette, are you alright? Yes. Lucette? The king looks at me quizzically, but his gaze does not linger. He looks toward Varg, his eyes narrowed. Did the king remember who I was? Your majesty, are you hurt? The king shakes his head at Waltz before turning his attention to Varg, his eyebrows furrowed. Who is this man? Your majesty, this person is working for the Wicked Witches. What? Wait, what happened to Dorian and Garland? They were just outside the door. Uh-oh. What did you do to them? Uh-oh. Varg cocks his head to the side. Who? The guards just outside this door. I am sure that they must have hid themselves when they saw the king coming to this room, but they still should have been able to see Varg coming. Guards? I'm afraid I don't know what you're talking about, princess. For half a second, I was worried that Garland ended up dead again. But things look okay so far. Maybe they just went to go get help or something. Varg seems like he is telling the truth, but I cannot trust him. Please, let them be safe. Yeah, I double that thought. I see Neverland a few feet from us. I can try to grab it, but Varg will probably thwart my attempt with magic. I have to wait for an opening. I'll distract him. While I do that, the both of you need to run. What? I eye Varg. He looks at the three of us with his lips slightly quirked, as if he is amused. Amused? Let me try that again. I eye Varg. He looks at the three of us with his lips slightly quirked as if he is amused. This isn't a time to argue with me, Lucette. Okay. Which one? Listen to him or stay with him? I don't think she wants to run. So, what if staying is the bad decision? Oh no! I'm gonna stay with him. No. Lucette, we must prioritize the king's safety. I will help you. I do not know how, but I must do something. But we are in this together, Waltz. I am not going to run away while you sacrifice yourself for us. Waltz's disapproval is clearly written on his face, but he eventually sighs out, seeming to let it go. You're too stubborn for your own good. Ha-ha! So I've been told. I turn to the king and place a hand on his shoulder. Your Majesty, leave this to us. You have to escape somewhere safe. This does not involve the king. It is me that Varg wants, after all. The king shakes his head as he removes my hand from his shoulder. He stands up and moves in front of us before pulling his sword from his sheath. Your Majesty, what kind of king would I be if I stood back and allowed 2 children to protect me? One of us is only looking like a child. Varg looks amused by our conversation, and the other one's gonna be a legal adult in 3 days. You know that I'm not letting you get away this time, princess. It doesn't matter who stands in my way. Father, his cane is enchanted. You cannot hold him with just a blade. Father? I'm at a loss for words. It has been a long time since I called him that. Much to my surprise, the king's lips curl into a soft smile. You said that at the gates that one day when you were seeking an audience with me. I have not been able to forget that day. Before I can say anything in return, a familiarly smooth voice breaks the ensuing silence. Oh? I wonder where all these voices are coming from. Uh-oh. Familiar man steps to the doorway. He inspects everyone in the room quietly. This isn't good. Mithros. This isn't good. Your Majesty, this isn't good! Quickly summon the knights. We have an intruder in the palace. He gestures at Varg, who looks unperturbed. An intruder, you say? Sir Mithros turns to Varg. At first his expression is impassive, but then, slowly, his lips begin to edge into a sly smile. You're such a ruffian, Varg. Look at all of this property destruction. I can only gape at Sir Mithros in shock. If he knows Varg, then he is most certainly affiliated with the witches. You know this man? Explain yourself, Mithros. We are all thrown off guard by Mithros' laughing. Soon his laugh becomes a mad cackle. There is a strange brightness in his eyes that sends shivers down my spine. My apologies, Your Majesty. I am just amused at my servant's atrocious behavior. At ease, Varg. Sir Mithros gestures at Varg, a silent command to lower his cane. Varg obeys him before moving to a corner of the room and leaning against the wall with disinterest. Don't worry, Your Majesty. You're not the one we're after. What? Sir Mithros turns a sly smile on me and I instinctively take a step back. The princess is the lady we need to escort. Escort? Princess? This girl is a princess? That is correct. It is a shame you can't remember your own daughter even though she stands right in front of you. Enough with your vagueness. Explain yourself. The king's grip on the hilt of his sword tightens. I am not obliged to explain everything to you. Try thinking on your own for a change, Your Majesty. Mithros. Sir Mithros ignores the king's outburst and turns his attention to Waltz. He visibly stiffens and his sly smile contorts into a grimace. And look who we have here. I see that the traitor has returned to the palace. Waltz stares at him, looking puzzled. Sir Mithros tilts his head to the side and offers Waltz a lopsided smile. You still look the same as you did back then. I did not think it was possible for you to grow any weaker, Waltz Cresswell. Mithros, I see. Waltz suddenly looks melancholy as he stares at Sir Mithros. Waltz, what is going on? The man's real name is Myth, and he is a witch, same as me. It appears that he has been using a powerful glamour to conceal his real identity. If I hadn't been cursed, I would have been able to tell right away. I would not give yourself so much credit, Cresswell. Waltz narrows his eyes but says nothing. I glance between the two of them, confused. But how do you know him? He secretly worked for your mother, practically worshipped her. I was the only other person who knew of his existence as a witch outside of the Tenebrarum Bearer. A witch? I trusted you, Mithros. You and your snaky face. The king says the words through gritted teeth, his face contorted in anger. As if this guy wasn't obviously a villain. Sir Mithros flicks a wrist. It is a dismissive gesture, and he still looks amused. What a hypocrite you are, Your Majesty. He eyes Waltz. You're willing to play nice with some witches, but not others. This bias is what drove us witches to madness in the first place. Sir Mithros faces the king with a grin. You human hypocrites are so easy to manipulate. It is pathetic. Mithros! The king charges towards Sir Mithros with his sword held high. No, bro. Bad decision. Your Majesty, don't! Oh, boy. Oh, boy. The king's sword never touches Sir Mithros. Sir Mithros only has to hold out his hand, and suddenly an invisible force pushes the king back. He crashes into one of my shelves, knocking down my dolls. Your Majesty! I quickly run to his side to help him up. Thankfully, he does not seem to have any major wounds. To think there was a witch working in the palace this whole time. And not the good kind of witch either. I was too careless. Rejoice, Your Majesty. I still have more surprises for you. I will never forgive this betrayal, Mithros. I am the best at storytelling. Betrayal? I'm afraid you have been played for a fool this entire time, Your Majesty. My loyalty has always been reserved for Lady Hilda and no one else. Myth. I can't imagine what you would hope to gain from all this. Hilda is long gone. Sir Mithros' eyes flash as he turns a severe glare on Waltz. His voice is seething with venom when he speaks. Had it not been for you, traitor, she would still be here. The king mentioned Waltz's betrayal. Sir Mithros called him a traitor. What exactly did Waltz do? Sir Mithros beckons me forward with a gesture of his hand. Now, if you please, princess, come with us if you don't want them to get hurt. Waltz immediately stands in front of me. I won't let you take her. In your current form, you don't stand a chance. I will make certain that you never break your curse, Waltz. This whole thing was a setup, a trap. I am sorry, Waltz. This is my fault. No, it was mine. The reason we came was to break my curse. My eyes once again flit to the box on the floor. Neverland is just a few steps away from me. Neverland. Waltz's eyes follow mine to the box. He leans back and whispers to me. You have to get the box and break my curse. I feel for the key inside my pocket. If Waltz's true magic is indeed sealed in that box, then releasing it might give us a chance at victory. And Mithros and Varg do not seem to have caught on to the fact that the object that will break Waltz's curse is right at their feet. Haha! Okay. The king moves to stand beside Waltz and draws his sword again, his body a shield. Your Majesty, I will not let you take this girl. You will have to go through me first. You can't do this. Lucette, I've always loved that name. I thought if I ever had a daughter, I would give her that name. Magic makes even the impossible possible. You must truly be my daughter, yes? Tears start to blur my vision. Oh, how disgustingly touching. Seems as if I will just have to deal with you first. You made me laugh once, Mithros. Just once. No! I rush toward the box at the same moment Mithros casts a spell. Varg lunges toward me, his hands reaching for me. But he is too late. By the time he grabs me, I have already inserted the key into Neverland. I give it one definitive twist and hear the click of the box as it opens. White flashes through the room, blinding me. Suddenly, I feel a strong arm around me, holding me tightly, protectively. When I open my eyes, it is Waltz I see. Even several years older, I still recognize him! Ha-ha! Finally! Waltz? Hey there, little star. Seems like the tide has turned to myth. Waltz grins, and I see a confidence in his expression that I have never seen before. Sir Mithros' frown has only become more severe. That is a face right there. Fool, I will show you that I was the favored apprentice. Be careful not to hurt the princess, Mithros. Varg's voice is almost teasing, but Sir Mithros does not seem to care. I didn't plan on it. Sir Mithros gestures his hand in a sweeping gesture. Gestures his hand in a sweeping gesture. Okay. The beginnings of a spell gather at his fingertips. Waltz looks at me and smiles reassuringly. Now, when I say that I can protect you, Lucette, I definitely can. Waltz holds out his hand just before Sir Mithros' magic reaches us. An invisible barrier suddenly appears in front of us, thwarting Sir Mithros' magic. Seems like I'm not as rusty as I thought I would be. Waltz snaps his fingers and effortlessly creates a dark wave that pushes both Sir Mithros and Varg to the wall. Ba-bam! Ugh! Let's go. Hello, hottie. What do we do now? The Order of Caldera. They are sworn to an oath of protection. We can rely on them. No, you can't! No, you can't! Waltz glances down the hallway, his mouth drawn in a tight line. I see clear suspicion in his eyes. I look back at the king. The knights should have been here by now. Surely such a commotion should have brought them running. Now I know why Waltz is staring down the hallway. He is searching for the knights that are meant to pass through here. There's no possible way they did not hear the skirmish in my bedroom. The three of us push onward. I stand between the king and Waltz, waiting. I'm not entirely sure what I am waiting for, but I can feel the tension in the air. We only stop moving when a voice cuts through the silence. Your Majesty! Sir Alcaster stops before us with a group of knights. His face is impassive at best. Waltz takes a step back as Sir Alcaster looks to the king. The king is quiet for a few moments, his eyebrows drawn together in a terse expression. He finally speaks. I am about to declare a state of emergency. Where have you been? Sees them. Betraying you is where he's been! My eyes are still on the knights in front of us when I hear footsteps from behind us. I am nonplussed when a dozen knights appear from the shadows and surround us. I look for Fritz in the cluster of knights, but he is not here. The king stares around him, baffled. What is the meaning of this? Betrayal! Could this be the reason why? Top 10 anime betrayals. What is happening? That voice. We all turn to watch the dining room doors open. Ophelia enters with Emmeline and Rod. Several knights trail behind and flank them on either side, giving them no room for escape. Rod notices me and stares in shock, but says nothing. Gennaro! The minute she sees the king, she calls his name and attempts to run to him. The knights only need to raise their swords and block her path to stop her. I think that takes care of all the intruders. Though I am not happy that two managed to escape. Two, Doreen and Garland? If they manage to escape, they might be able to get reinforcements. The king will be judged and convicted. His crown will be given to one more worthy. I see. It was you who sent that letter, Alcaster. Betray? That is correct. Now if you want to protect your family, you will hand over your crown. The king shakes with rage. Was this yours and Mithros' plan all along? To take this kingdom at its heart? Sir Alcaster snorts and crosses his arms. Do not clump me together with that snake. Both of us have different goals. It just so happens that we both needed to be rid of you. What? You are a weak king, Gennaro. The kingdom of Angiel needs someone who will rule with an iron fist. You are too soft, and so your subjects have become too dependent on the kingdom. And how do you propose I run my kingdom? By instilling fear. There is no place for fear in this kingdom. It is a ruler's obligation to assuage the fears of his people. I cannot believe you would do this, Sir Alcaster. I can. Alcaster looks at me with disinterest. Even during the first row, I could have freaking believed it even before he was revealed to be a traitor. Lucette, correct? I have no business with you, but I suppose Mithros does. We have been backed into a corner. What do we do? I feel for my pocket, my hand touching the smooth surface of a vial. I can still remember the potion that Parfait gave me before we left. I had forgotten I had this with me. Parfait told me to use the potion if we found ourselves in a difficult situation. She said it would give us time to escape. She did not even tell me what it does. That would have been extremely important to do. You kind of need to know what that potion's gonna do in order to use it properly. Because what if it just opens like a portal and then everyone can leave through the portal? Or what if it's like a fog thing in which everyone gets confused? Or you really don't know what the heck that thing's gonna do. Oh goodness. I glance at Waltz, who is eyeing the knights quietly. Like, why wouldn't she say what it does? But it is also possible that Waltz would be able to do something about the situation with his magic. I don't want to rely too heavily on Waltz, because I know he just got his magic back, and he's probably going to run weak pretty fast. Let's try Parfait's potion first. I reach into my pocket and slip the vial out. I open my fingers just long enough for Waltz to see it. He gives me a subtle nod before turning his attention to Sir Alcaster, who is still speaking with the king. I will make you regret your actions, Sir Alcaster. I throw the vial to the floor. The moment it shatters, a blinding white light envelops the room, forcing my eyes to close. Waltz grabs my hand and pulls me away. Don't let them escape! I hear a few grunts from the knights as Waltz begins to barrel his way through them. Waltz leads me into the throne room. We have all somehow made it out. Rod stands in between Ophelia and Emmeline. Rod must have pretty good eyes to be able to lead them both out up there in all that chaos. Good job back there, Lucette. I never realized you had a potion. Parfait gave it to me before she left on her urgent meeting. Correct! It's a good thing then. You saved me by using it, you know. Using a more complicated spell would have drained my energy. Ha ha! I was double correct. And technically 2.5% correct. 2.5 correct because it was a blinding light, which is sort of like a fog thingy. It was a distraction nonetheless, and I was somewhat right about that. Why is this happening? Emmeline's eyes are filled with tears. Ophelia takes her into her arms and rubs her back in an effort to calm her. This is my fault. How could I have not foreseen this? Durian was right about him. I should have listened to her. This is not your fault, Your Majesty. We don't have much time. We need to escape and tell Lady Parfait about this. Sounds like Durian and Garland were able to escape. It is possible they will soon bring reinforcements. Rod, you know these people? Rod is silent for a few moments before nodding at her. Yes, they're my friends. Friends? Rod just shrugs at me. More than likely, he just wants us to play along. Waltz paces the room, his arms crossed as he tries to think of something. Waltz? I haven't done this in a long time, but I can try to open a portal that leads us back to the Marchen. Witches can do that? Only the most practiced witches. It only works if they have a clear image of where they want to go. So you can do it? I can. I was taught by your mother, after all. Oh boy, I have a bad feeling. Waltz starts waving his hand in front of him as he conjures a spell to open the portal. But the portal disappears as soon as it appears and fades again. Damn it. They're coming, Waltz. I'm doing my best, Princess. You're not helping. Waltz tries to cast the spell again. This time the opening appears and stays. I did it. But this won't be open for long. Your Majesty, you must go first. No, let Ophelia and the children go first. Waltz nods as he ushers Ophelia and Emmeline into the portal. Though Rod is reluctant to step inside, I force him into the portal before me. I can't keep the portal open much longer, Lucette. I can manage one more person before I need to recast it. Your Majesty, you must go. No. What? I do not have any intention of leaving. To leave this place is to abandon my kingdom. Your kingdom kind of needs you to be around. You can always come back so long as you're alive to fight back later. This is not abandoning your kingdom. This is saving it. I will not flee like a coward. You're not fleeing like a coward. I will protect my throne until my last breath. That's stupid. But that would be suicide. He will not kill me. He may have managed to sway the order, but I have the people on my side. He gonna kill you. Killing me will cause an uprising, and that is the last thing he will want. I hope so. But if the king escaped, he would be able to fight from the outside. The castle and his crown are symbols, but he is in danger if he stays here alone. I glance at Waltz and notice him paling. I can tell the magic is sapping his strength, making him weaker. I ball my hands into fists. I cannot leave the king here by himself. He is the king, and I am the crown princess. Waltz, you will come back for me, right? What are you... Before he can react, I put my hands on his back and push with all the strength I can muster. Waltz stares at me in horror as he falls into his portal. I am sorry. Waltz disappears and the portal collapses in on itself, leaving me with the king. Both my mind and heart are numb as the knights approach, ready to surround us. Alright, I'm gonna actually pause here. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I am Bacon, and it looks like we're getting into some very exciting things now. If you like the video, feel free to like the video. If you like me, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, all that lovely stuff. And I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye!